Hi, welcome to Leaving the Lies and Speaking Your Truth. I thank you for joining us today. We ask that you like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Head on over to our Facebook channel where also Leaving the Lies and Speaking Your Truth. Join our group and get in on the discussion and learn how many people are affected by cults today. Today, Melody, thank you for joining me on this informative episode today. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Hanging in there. It's one of those days, but I'm hanging in there. But thanks for asking.
Gotcha. Today, we have the wonderful Evan with us.
Again.
We have had Evan with us before. We got to hear his journey and his experience as he was in the
IFB.
Sorry, Evan.
That's okay. I'm filling in your gaps.
Yes. The thing that excites me the most is that Evan is here today to inform us of the Vashti initiative. I'm super excited for this. I don't even know what to call it. The initiative, really,
yes.
and the job that they're doing. And I really want to get information out there and to people about all that they're doing so that more people can be helped by this. And I'm excited for this informative episode that we're doing today. I'm excited for people to get to know Evan even more so that they can reach out to him if they need be. So Mel, let's just jump right on into this so we can explain what the Vashti initiative is.
Absolutely. Okay, Evan, first question is exactly that. Can you explain exactly what the Vashti initiative is to our audience?
Yeah, absolutely. So also I do pronounce it Vashti.
Vashti.
You really can pronounce it anyways. We had a whole meeting on this when we were starting where we had to go in because it's a Persian word that we've taken and but Vashti seems to be the most, but Vashti, Vashti, there's several different pronunciations. So the initiative was started by a group of former fundamentalists, and we had like a lot of people who are from cults or abusive religious environments, adverse religious environments, AREs, that's what we call them, adverse religious environments. If people are from those environments, a lot of times survivors will get together and say, hey, someone needs to help survivors out. And we had spent years talking about how someone needs to help survivors out. And then finally one day, a couple of us were like, let's just do this. We know that this needs to be done, so we're going to do it. And so we started meeting, and then we formed a board of people, and that was in July of last year that we finally had our board together. And in February of this year, we first started rolling out services. So we're a new organization. Our focus is specifically on any form of religious abuse. And I think a lot of people, we can talk more about this in a minute, but there's a lot of people don't realize everything that falls under the category of religious abuse. There's, you have physical violence, you have sexual assault, you have forced polygamous marriage, you have labor violence, you have trafficking. There's a lot of things that fall under this umbrella of religious abuse. And so we wanted to provide social services for people because there are support groups out there. There are a few websites that provide people with some resources, but there are very, very few. And when I say few, I mean there's a small handful of organizations in the entire United States that provide any kind of social services to victims. And that's helping people get access to housing, get access to benefits, get access to food stamps and clothing, get into shelter. That is also providing support groups, that's doing everything that you would see in a typical social service agency, but geared towards religious abuse survivors.
I absolutely love it. I mean, it's something that I know that coming out of my cult, I couldn't even fathom having a resource like that. I can't. What it would mean to somebody like that, because you feel so lost, you feel so alone, you feel abandoned, and you don't really know where to start. And that's me having, had some more experience of the outside world than a lot of people who are a lot more isolated. So we both are just so excited to not only promote this, but to actually be a part of the Vashti initiative. I'm going to try to start changing my pronunciation too.
That's right. It took, like I said, we were saying it several different ways. I only say it 100 times a day now, so now I've got it down pat. But
There we
I've
go.
been saying it every way for a while.
I love it. How was the name chosen?
Yeah,
I love this story. That's why I had to ask.
Yeah, so if you are familiar with the Bible, the Torah, or the Old Testament, whatever terminology you use, there's the story in there of the Persian queen Vashti, and she is married to King Ahasuerus, who is the leader of Persia. And one day, King Ahasuerus, he's with all of his men partying. They're very drunk, and he decides to ask the queen to come in and to dance for him. And it's not only insulting to ask a queen to do that, but it's also just a degrading thing to do to your wife, to ask her to come in and dance before all your men. And so Vashti refuses, and she refuses several times, which makes the king very angry. And it's also important to remember, I mean, first of all, this was her king, this was her husband, and this was her spiritual authority because he was the person who was placed over her as according to that belief system, he would have been her spiritual authority. And so her refusing, so her refusing to go to him was a very defiant act, and it cost her her crown. She was kicked out of the kingdom, and we only see in the entire Old Testament, we only see about 7 verses about Vashti. She's never heard of again. And for a long time, she was villainized. She was cast as a Jezebel, as a disobedient woman. Again, it depends on the background that you come from. But even when I read Jewish texts, when I read there, she's mentioned in the Quran, when she's talked about in Christian texts, most of the time, until very recently, she was always very demonized and considered, a foolish woman. And this is where the story of Esther begins, and that's why Esther was brought in. So we saw Vashti as kind of us, as this woman who's been kind of forgotten and rejected to the side because she defied her spiritual authority. She defied the person who was set over her, and we felt that she would make a great mascot for the agency. So,
wow, the symbolism in that is absolutely phenomenal and amazing, because basically she is any one of us. And the idea that she's spoken of so briefly in the scriptures and basically forgotten is exactly what happens to a lot of survivors. That's awesome. Yes. That's awesome. That's amazing. So I think he already answered my next question.
Yes.
Yes. So you go ahead with yours.
You can ask it, Mel, and that'll put us on.
Okay. What are some of the programs that the Vashti Initiative is offering?
Yeah, so I want to clarify what we are able to offer right now versus what we want to offer. So again,
right.
We're a new agency. We're working towards this because spiritual abuse as a whole is very new. And I'm talking less than 20 years of any field of study has really been dedicated to this. There's not a lot of federal or state funding sources. So any funding that we receive is through individual donations. We do plan to apply for some small grants that will go through some foundations, but there's just not a lot of funding available to us. So we are all volunteers. We all do this work ourselves, and we're starting small. So we do offer a Sunday support group that meets on Sunday nights at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. We have a few resource navigators available, and this means that if you reach out to the Vashti Initiative and you say, hey, I need help finding a support group near me, I need help getting in touch with a therapist that specializes in cult abuse, I need, can you help me find some food banks near me? You can reach out to us and we can help you do those things. And we do it from an informed perspective because most people from AREs, adverse religious environments, are taught not to trust the outside. And they're really taught not to take public help. So they're not to take public benefits. There's a very dirty word. If you take help from the government, you're considered lazy. There's something wrong with you. There's also that fear of the government that's sometimes instilled in particular groups. So resource navigators can come from an informed place. They can offer support and they can help the person. Those are the two main things that we have immediately right now. In addition to that, we are working on also being able to offer people with peer supports. So that's a one-on-one advocate that can help you through a hard time. They can also help you access resources, but mostly they help you in that personal journey and that personal growth. And then we want to have more support groups, and we want have more. We eventually want to have liaisons positioned in domestic violence agencies and sexual assault agencies who can inform on religious abuse and help survivors who have that intersecting identity of you're a sexual assault victim and you're also a religious abuse victim. So that's where we're headed towards, but we're starting small with what we can right now. Oh, and of course, we have our hotline. That is launched. Our hotline, 1-833-4-VASHTI. If you call that hotline, you can talk to a representative and get put in touch with some resources.
I would like to say how extremely important it is that you just said you want to get put in abuse shelters, shelters for children and stuff. And I'm going to explain why. Melody and Philip and Mike and I had this conversation. Okay, so this is before we knew about you guys. Somebody reaches out for us and wants help. Fine, we can get them help. But then what if somebody says, let me pray with you, or let me read the Bible to you, or let me take you to church? Well, here's the thing. When I came out of my cult, I didn't want to hear any more of that. I kept whatever was left inside of me privately, and I didn't want to hear anything that man had to say. And so it would scare me when people would come at me like that, because then I would be triggered. Mm-hmm. Which, if they're no better than what I came from, I might as well go back. So I am very, very, and I'm going to say this from a mom point of view, and I hope it doesn't come off silly, proud that you guys thought of this to protect these people that, yes, we're here to help you, but no, you can't throw in all the rest of this stuff. Let's just keep it clean slate and let them know it's okay to feel the way that you're feeling. It's okay to have these emotions, because we all did.
Right.
It's normal. And you noticed I used quotes when I say that word.
Well, and I'm gonna add to that. The big thing is that having somebody doing what you're talking about, having like an advocate in domestic violence shelters too. There's a learning curve to this, because people who haven't been there and haven't experienced it don't really understand what they're dealing with. I tried to go to like a normal therapist when I was going through my transition phase, and I walked out of there feeling completely misunderstood and completely judged. And I felt like the guy looked at me like I was an alien. I'm like, this guy has no idea what I'm talking about or what I'm going through. And that was no help at all. It made me feel worse. I'm like, I'm not going back. So there is a learning curve.
And not to say anything against people who are trying to help.
No.
Yeah,
you're trying. Go ahead, Devin.
I was just saying, you're just coming from a misinformed place. I mean,
right.
I've been on the show before. I'm a transgender man. I relate this to kind of my intersecting identity. Like in my day job, I go around and I advocate for victims of domestic violence and sexual assault, but from an LGBTQ perspective. And so I often have to educate people first on what it means to be LGBTQ before we can also talk about how we're helping victims of domestic violence and sexual assault. This is the same thing, where, again, coming from an informed place, here's what religious abuse looks like, here's how it can be triggering, and here's how you can help people from an informed place and in the least traumatic way possible.
Exactly. And because a lot of people this day and age, they think you just go to church on Sunday and you go home. What's the big deal? So what, you go on Wednesday? What's the big deal? They just see the world's perspective of it. Mm-hmm. They don't see what actually happens behind the sidelines and what's being said and stuff. And that's why I'm so, so, so incredibly thankful for what you guys have started and allowing me to come along for this ride. I'm excited for it.
Me too.
Go ahead, Mel, with the next question.
What type of religion trauma victims can contact the Vashti Initiative for help?
Any person who's in the United States. So we go, right now we're based on a self-identity basis. Most of our people are trained in Christian religions, so I will put that out there, but that's why we're constantly trying to pull people from other faiths. So anybody, regardless of where they, if you identify as a Jewish, Hasidic Jew, Muslim, if you're from a different kind of faith like Scientology or anything like that. If you self-identify as a victim of religious or spiritual abuse, you can reach out to us. And you live in the United States right now, we only have license to help those in the United States.
Okay. Excellent.
Okay, awesome. And you did speak about this, but I would like for you to go into just a little bit more detail for me, because this I would have loved 22 years ago to been able to reach out and access. Your online support group for victims coming out. Please reiterate when, where, and what takes place, so that if who's ever watching, they can, know what to expect.
Yeah. So our support group meets via Zoom, and it meets on Sunday nights. We have a moderator. We usually have at least 2 trained moderators in that group. So these are people that are just there to make sure the group goes okay. If someone does, for some reason, starts to act hostile or aggressive towards another member, we can remove that person from the group safely. We also can track who's coming into the group. We try to make it as low barrier as possible, meaning as accessible as possible, but obviously if a person is not being appropriate, we're going to have to ask them to leave to protect everyone else. So the group runs an hour long, and it's a very loose format. There will be more groups coming, and how those moderators choose to structure those, it's going to be up to them. But this is a very loose format. Usually they open with like a introduction, a little poem or something, and then they'll talk about a topic or an issue that people are struggling with that has to do with religious trauma, and then they'll close the group, and anyone can request to join that. You can either go to vashtiinitiative.org and send us a message. You can click on the support group link, or you can email vashtigroups@gmail, and our moderator can put you in touch. Or you can, any of our emails, if you, anything that we have out there, if you message us, we'll get you in touch with the moderator. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, but those are the most direct links to get to someone.
And I just want to ask this question. I know the answer, but it just popped into my head for anybody who may be younger and watching. If somebody were to get in contact with you, say at the age of 17, 18, 19, you are not going to pick up are you going to pick up the phone and call or ask for their parents' phone number, address, or anything like that?
No, ever. We would never do that. In fact, we treat these very much like domestic violence situations, in that if someone contacts us, if one of our questions on their initial intake form asks them right away, is it safe to contact you back? Or what is a safe contact? Because I never once, say it's a woman and her husband's still very much in the church or the group, calling, trying to get help out, and we're contacting her and he answers the phone. We never want to do that. Same thing with young people. We cannot help anyone under the age of 18. Again, we don't have licenses to do that. I would love to get to that point one day. That'll be a little bit a ways, but we can refer them through email to some other agencies and groups that can help minors. That's not religious trauma based, but maybe they're LGBTQ, maybe they're just in a violent situation and they need help. We can give them contact sources. We can't help them directly, but if they're 18, 19, 20 and they're still living at home. In fact, I'm working with someone right now who's in that same exact category. We meet via email. We're very careful how we talk, and we're trying to get them to a safe place. So yes, we're going to run into that. We would never contact anyone who could even be closely construed as an abuser or tied to the abusive environment.
And that's now, exactly. Oh, go ahead.
One other question I have, in case, the three of us know, if we're stuck in a cult, we don't have a lot of knowledge of what's going on outside. Why are you keeping a form of information? Is this to use it against them to the authorities?
It's a great question. So first of all, I don't take any I shouldn't say identifying information, because I do take a contact form. We provide each person with a Vashti number, it's a mix of a bunch of things I'm not going to put out there because it's a code only staff members know, and that code is how they're identified. So nobody else, even in the agency, unless you're directly working with that person, knows that person's name. You just know their code. And we have to take that to get general information. First of all, in case there is an emergency, we need to contact the person, or we know who we're talking to. And second, it is required for funding sources. So even though we're individually funded right now, once we do gain funding from grants, we're going to have to show how many people we're working with and general demographics. That's the nature of the nonprofit industry. Right. But we're very careful who has access to that information, and I'm pretty positive we put it in there that it's confidential. We're not trying to take their information to ever use it against them. We never will use it against them. We will not disclose it for any reason. And that also is why we assign the code, so that if this information was taken from someone else, they don't know what the code is. They're not going to be able to decipher who it is.
So I'm just going to reiterate this. They will not ever use your information or what you tell them against you, unless they're physically harming somebody else.
Or if your cult or organization calls and says, is so and so in touch with you, are they speaking with you, that is private information that is not going to be shared. And this is kind of what I was talking about with the education that needs to be out there, because the fact that you guys know this, obviously it's because you've come from this type of environment, that there is a lot of fear when you leave, and a lot of it is very justified fear that if you have not been in this situation, you cannot relate, you do not understand that calling somebody on their phone or even sending a text message could get somebody in trouble and could put them in danger.
Exactly. And that's why we're very careful. There's only a few people that are answering the hotline right now, and it's only people that have previous experience. Any person that does answer our hotline will have training and will have to understand that. I do want to clarify, if someone is threatening to kill themselves, we do have to call the police. We are required to do that. And if someone is threatening to harm someone else, especially in the case of children, then we would have to notify the proper authorities. But that would be the only time where we would have to call someone else.
And the reason why I said that is because one of the things I used to hear all the time is if you go ask for help, the people you ask for help from are going to take your children away from you, and they're going to put you in jail. That is not the case. That is not the case. They are here to help you, your children. You don't have children, and it's not just for females, correct? This is an organization that is for both male and female, fathers and mothers.
Any gender, any person, however they identify, is welcome to reach out to us.
Awesome.
Love it. So Evan, where do you and the rest of the team see the Vashti initiative in 5 years?
Well, I'm really hoping that in 5 years we have some sustainable funding so that we can have some hired paid positions, which will almost all, if at least mostly, be filled by former survivors. I'm hoping that in 5 years we've formed a coalition with other groups, which we've already started doing very loosely, of other religious abuse groups that we can work together. So having those connections to direct people is important. And I want to have some serious funding to help survivors get out of these situations, because it's that transition period that's so difficult, where you want to leave, but you need to get started somewhere. Where are you going to get a job? Where are you going to live? What are you going to do in the meantime? So have a strong network that's adequately funded so that we can move people along, because we have a lot of folks who understand what needs to happen. We just need the means to make it happen. So that's where I hope we are in 5 years.
And I'm going to add, because you said this on our other episode, and I do think it's important, that you also mentioned that one of your visions is to have some type of Vashti type initiative, program, or group in every major city across the country, in the same way that we have domestic violence shelters across the country, which I don't want that left out, because I think that is an amazing goal.
Yes.
And I would absolutely, if that happens in 5 years, we need to have a party.
If that happens in 5 years, then we've done a lot of amazing things. But I at least hope that in 5 years we have an established connection in the main cities and in every single state. So I think we work towards that, and then we work towards getting all the other major cities. But again, we got to have those central points where people are going to go to for help.
Right. Small goals and eventually bigger goals.
I'm excited for this. Okay, important question. For those that are watching, And I'm not going to lie, I'm going to share this on some other types of platforms and stuff. But if they are watching right now and they want to donate, how do they donate? If they want to help with funding, if they may know somebody that you need to be in touch with, how do they go about these points?
Mm-hmm. So the easiest way to donate is to go to vashtiinitiative.org and donate right there. On the very front page, there's a donate for $10. And then you can also go to the actual donate page and you can donate any amount that you want. Right now, our donations go through PayPal, so you can go on as a guest. You don't have to make an account. They'll try to get you to make an account, but you can continue as a guest and you can make a donation, and that's how we can get funds directly. If you know someone who wants to make a larger donation or wants to talk about funding opportunities, then I would ask that they reach out to me directly. If you go to the About Us page, you can see our office phone directory, and you can call us, or you can email the Vashti Initiative at Gmail, and that email is also on the website. You can hit the send us a message, contact us, and you can get in touch with me directly pretty quickly, and then I'll reach out to you and we can talk about that.
Perfect.
And we will have all of this information up for you guys so that you can see during this interview so that we can get this going. I am ecstatic for this.
More links underneath the videos. There will be links, yes. Just like with the other interview with Evan. We put links under there. I want to do the same thing with this episode, to put links under there. And Evan, I'm going to ask you, I'm jumping the gun a little bit here, but can you repeat that phone number, because I actually want to write it down, because I also want to have that as a separate comment underneath the video, to have the hotline number there. Yeah,
so the hotline number is 1-833 4, the number 4, and then that's Vashti, Vashti.
Okay.
So is the 1-833 number, is it toll free?
Yes, it's a toll free number.
Okay.
And we have the ability to set up a text line. We just haven't done that yet. More of a staffing issue. We need to get some more volunteers.
Work in progress.
But we will be also having a texting line, which is very helpful, especially for younger people. But in general, it's easier sometimes to send a text than it is to get away for a phone call.
That very true.
Hey, Mel, I think I'm going to ask my question before yours, because I think it'll tie better, right, with what he just said?
Yes, go ahead and do that.
Okay, if somebody would like to volunteer, can they? And if so, how do they do it?
Yeah, so our volunteer process, again, we try to give we have lots of things that people can help us with, especially now. So we don't turn away a volunteer unless they are still tied to an active abuser. If they are listed as an abuser, so this would be someone who was like a high-ranking member in an adverse religious environment, and they're still involved in that environment. So we have reason to believe that they might be trying to infiltrate Vashti, essentially. But other than that, or if they're under the age of 18, but anyone that's over the age of 18 and wants to volunteer for Vashti, whether you're a survivor or not, you can. Again, you go to vashtiinitiative.org, and right away on the front page it says join our team, and you fill out an application. After that, once we've gone through that, we have what's called a welcome assessment. We were calling that an interview for a while, but we're not really interviewing people. We're just trying to assess where they would best work in the agency. So you meet with a couple of people from Vashti, you have an assessment, and then you get put in contact with whatever department. They're like, hey, this is where you would go. And then, we go from there. Some jobs are very easy. You just do them at home on your computer. You don't interact much. Other jobs, you might be asked to interact in meetings with the rest of the team. We always have a monthly meeting with all of our Vashti staff where they can come and they can talk and just kind of hang out, especially because we're a virtual nonprofit. We're spread all across the United States. I think we have volunteers from 11 different states right now. And so we're spread all the way across the United States. So we like to meet virtually and connect and,
I do have one question about that. Do you guys have a requirement that you have to be like so many years out of your cult or anything like that? Do you guys have specs for that? Like, because I'm sure that there may be people that think they want to help, but they might not be ready. I mean, is that kind of what the assessment is supposed to do?
Exactly. So we don't deny a person a chance to help out, but there will be certain positions that they would not be able to do. So
Okay, perfect.
if you're only a year out or a year less, you're not going to be asked to be a peer support. You're not going to be asked to be a group moderator. You're probably not healed enough. But you can help us build resource lists, and you can help us with a lot of other behind the scenes stuff.
I love that. I love that. There's a spot for everyone.
Yes.
So, is there anything that we've left out, or is there anything important, especially that you think our listeners need to know about the initiative that we have not already spoken about?
I think we covered everything really thoroughly. Like I said, the things that we need volunteers, we need funding, and we do, and our doors are open now. Again, it's limited, but we are providing what we can, and the more volunteers that we get, the more help and resources we're able to provide. So, share that hotline number, tell other people that this is available. We'll do whatever we can. And if we don't have the resources to help you, we will find someone, get you the resources. That's what we're here for. And trust us, that's a hard one, but trust as much as you can.
I love it.
I just want to say, I didn't think I would cry. I thought it was over the effects that this has on me. But when I left under the guise of my children were taken from me. I didn't know where they were. Very abusive situation. I didn't have an education, a formidable education. I didn't have a job. I couldn't supply things for myself, just basic living. And I thought that I was alone in this world. And I am just so ecstatic that you guys are doing this, because for me, had I had this resource at the time, life would not have been as bad. And for anybody who's watching, I know Evan, and I've gotten to know Evan, and I've gotten to know some of the people. And I want to tell you, these are not people that have no idea what they're talking about. These are people that have been there, that have done that have been in the trenches, whether they were told that they had to run their own church, or that they were just laymen, or that they were actually born into it like Evan. These are people that have been there and that have themselves suffered this, so they know how to listen, what you need, and how to help. And I implore and ask of anybody who's watching, even if it's just $20, donate to them. Help this organization to grow. And if you need help, I implore you to reach out. These are amazing, amazing people. I have trust issues 22 years later. And I almost want to say, you know what? Let's have a get together on my property, just so that I can literally wrap my arms around them, because I am ever so thankful for them. And I didn't mean to lose it like this. I really didn't think I would. The three people that I've met, Evan, I adore and I love each and every one of you. And we will do whatever it takes to help you guys get out there.
And I agree. And the only thing I'm going to add is that the other thing that you, the one thing that I was thinking of when you were speaking on them is that the other thing that they understand is respecting boundaries. And a lot of people coming out of these cults have boundaries and or don't have boundaries and don't know how to set them. And they understand that there may be an unspoken boundary that they're going to understand, that people, again, who haven't experienced it, don't even understand that there's a boundary there. When you've been in that situation, you kind of get those unspoken boundaries the way that other people can't. And I think you guys have that covered. You understand that. So I'm sorry we're both crying here. I don't know. I'm emotional about it too. I'm excited. It's happy tears.
Well.
Evan, I know sometimes you think, wow, this woman is a lot, but I am ever so thankful, Evan, for you, for, I don't know if I can say her name, but I'm going to say it, for Kate, and for, for
Stacy and Ivy.
Stacy and Ivy. Yes. Ivy, thank you so much for hooking us up with these people. Vashti, right? Am I saying it right?
Vashti.
Vashti Initiative. I am going to get it right because I'm going to be talking about them so much. Thank you for coming on with us.
Yes,
we know that
you.
we will have you here. If you need us to spread anything, you let us know. We got you just like you. I know that in 5 years from now, I'm going to sit back at one of the gala dinners where we're celebrating with my big old Southern hair saying, I was there. I was there.
I hope so. I believe so as well.
I know so.
The work that you two are doing is just as important. You do every day, every week. You get on here, you share people's stories. That's what it's about. We're about empowerment, education, and advocacy.
Absolutely.
And that education piece is creating awareness. So thank you for what both of you are doing, and I'm happy that we're all working together now.
Yes. Thank you, Evan. Thank you so much for coming on the show and for sharing all this information with our audience.
We ask that you like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube page. We will have the phone number, how to donate, how to volunteer, just how to get the information out there.
And a link to the Vashti website as well underneath the video. Thank you,
Evan,
everyone.
thank you so much for joining us.
All right.
Thank you.